I've seen a few gaming franchises over the years have little spin-offs in the form of virtual board games. Of course, everyone knows about Mario Party, it's been around since the Nintendo 64. But what else is there? Off the top of my head, I can think of the Command Board, the minigame from Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, but there's also one that just came out not from a well-known franchise, but from a very niche one. Released at the same time as one of its mainline counterparts that I already covered. Here is my review of Princess Maker Go Go Princess. Similar to the main franchise, this game puts you in the shoes of a young woman traveling around for 8 years aspiring to become the kingdom's princess. The main difference here is the fact that you can play as any of the 4 protagonists from the first 4 Princess Maker games complete with their original backstory, and you're competing with the others. Not only that, but a lot of other characters from the franchise show up here instead of new ones. The character sprites for the king, prince, and many other NPCs will be easily recognizable even if you've only played Princess Maker 3. And really, that's the novelty of Go Go Princess. It's made for fans of the franchise, specifically the first 4 games. While you do have interesting little story bits for each quest you go on, they're all really short and don't have much development. It really feels like the nostalgic factor is what's pulling you in rather than the actual story. When it comes to gameplay, Go Go is a virtual board game with a multiplayer focus to it. As you progress through the game, you roll dice and navigate across a line-based map as you fulfill requests, buy equipment, and even fight against monsters and enemies. Before we dive into the game though, there's a bit of a difference between the 2 versions of this game. Go Go Princess released on the Switch as well as PC. And that PC version has some things that the Switch version doesn't, namely online multiplayer. This is a multiplayer focused board game, but on the Switch you can only do local couch multiplayer. The online matchmaking is exclusive to the PC and Steam version. When you first start up the game, you choose your character and you set a lot of customization options. How many players and CPU bots there are, whether conversation and events happen, what part of the game you want to start on, pretty much anything and everything from your control options to how long you want the game to last. During this setup process, a few of the Princess Maker elements also make it into the game, in the form of customizing your character from their name and birthday to their blood type. These aspects affect the game and your character's starting stats just as they do in the mainline games. Now once you get started, progression through the entire 8 years of the game is through quests and missions. You're going to be sent to a specific tile on the board, and the girl who gets there first will be able to go through the quest line, get rewarded for it, and increase their affinity with the kingdom's prince, all leading up towards gaining his favor and becoming a princess. The trick is getting to that spot and getting there first. During each player's turn, you roll a dice for your movement. You then move around on the map and land on tiles on your way to your objective. What happens when you land on that tile can vary. Some tiles don't do anything, whereas some have facilities like shops where you can buy equipment, employers where you can do part-time work to gain a little bit of money, or even making you encounter a monster or an enemy going into turn-based combat and fighting them. And this is where the rest of the elements of the franchise come into the game. The turn-based battles are very similar to Princess Maker 2's Adventure Mode, and all of the other events affect your stats in different ways, like raising or lowering your stress, pride, affinity towards a certain profession, affinity towards the prince, pretty much anything across the board, and most of them are random, so you really gotta look at your stats as you go through the game. You could be on a roll and doing really great, but if your stress is going up too high and you don't realize it, you could easily roll, land on a tile, and immediately collapse, requiring a doctor and you having to wait a turn or two before you can go again. This brings us to the unfortunate reality that this game is 100% luck-based, with you having to rely on RNG to be on your side. Even when you get over to your quest objective, you have to be able to exactly hit the right tile with your rolls, or you have to wait until your next turn. And that can really screw a player over. I've had situations where I'm halfway across the map and my opponent is literally right next to the quest objective, but due to bad RNG with their rolls, I was able to completely catch up to them several turns later, and they still weren't able to hit that mark. Of course, dice-based RNG for movement is pretty common in board games, but it also seeps into other aspects like the minigames. When you go into combat, each turn is also dependent on dice rolls, so even if you got god tier equipment and stats over the opponent, if you get really unlucky with dice rolls, you can still easily die or have the battle time out on you. Stats and skill don't really matter here, and that's a big problem. After all, why would you put so many shops around the map for you to prepare for battle with armor and weapons if it's all luck based anyways? And with that, let's get into content and length to detail how short this game is. Even if you choose to go through the entire map all 8 years and have a full party of characters, a single game probably isn't going to last more than an hour and a half or so. Granted, going for all endings for all characters will take a long time, but that's also dependent on the game's RNG. You can't just go in and want the specific dancer ending for this character because the dice rolls will make it so that it's not that simple. The short amount of time you're spending on the game also brings us to the price point, the other comparison with the PC version. On the Switch, GoGo Princess costs $14.99. On PC, it costs $10. So not only are you paying a little bit more, but you're getting less, with the PC version having online matchmaking and the Switch version being local only. Now let's dive into presentation. Graphically, the game looks pretty cute overall. The map and characters look pretty smooth and crisp for the most part, and all of the special event artwork has a lot of nostalgia built into it, all the way down to the 4:3 resolution. The only problem I have with these artwork pieces are the inconsistent image quality between them. Some of the seasonal artwork pieces look crisp and clear, while others look pixelated and blurry. I don't have anything to say about performance, so let's dive right into battery life. On the original model, GoGo Princess has a battery range of 5 hours and 13 minutes up to 7 hours and 21 minutes. On the Nintendo Switch Lite, it has a range of 5 hours and 17 minutes up to 7 hours and 52 minutes. In the V2 or Redbox 2019 model, it has a range of 7 hours and 4 minutes up to 10 hours and 40 minutes. Now, in conclusion, Princess Maker has been brought into the world of board games in a very strange way. While it brings in many elements that make the franchise fun, including the adventure mode that Princess Maker 3 was missing, it also has quite a few flaws. From the price point and missing online multiplayer to the heavy focus on RNG both in movement and the minigames. It's a neat little game if you're a fan of the franchise, but this isn't the new Mario Party. Reviews to Go rates Princess Maker GoGo Princess for the Nintendo Switch a 5.5 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.